Welcome to Northampton, the lesbian capital of the world and home to the fastest parking enforcement on this side of Massachusetts. It also plays a rather significant role in the creation of a popular comic book franchise about pizza-loving amphibians living in the sewers of New York City. You might have heard of them: Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird started a small studio in 1983. A very small studio, a couple of desks, a phone, and a logo in their Dover, New Hampshire apartment. They gave a playful name, Mirage Studios, as the studio wasn't much of an official studio at all. They hoped to sell some of their collaborative works to publishers. It was here that Eastman drew some humanoid turtles holding ninja weapons. The two thought it was a funny concept and used the turtles to parody other popular comics at the time. At its origin, TMNT was an incredibly violent, gritty, and mature series, taking influence from comics such as Daredevil. In fact, in their comic, the Turtles were transformed into their mutant state by the same canister of radioactive substance that gave Daredevil his powers. Also in the TMNT series, the Turtles have a mutated rat master named Splinter and fight ninjas called the Foot, an homage to the Daredevil's mentor, Stick, and the ninjas he fought called the Hand. They thought the idea was brilliant. With little money up front from their own savings, tax return money, and a $1,000 loan from Kevin's uncle, the first issues of TMNT was published. 3,000 copies were stacked in the two's apartment, and with the remainder of the money after the comics were made, they took out an ad in Comic Buyer's Guide hoping to sell the comics by mail order. They managed to sell just enough to attract some distributors, and the remainder of the copies were sold in just a few weeks. 6,000 more copies were made, published, and again, every copy sold. It was from this popularity that Mirage Studios moved to Northampton, Massachusetts in 1985, just 1 year after the comic's first release. This move marked a significant moment for the studio, as Northampton became the hub for much of the creative work on TMNT and where the franchise continued to grow into a multimedia phenomenon. It was here that we saw a child-friendly spin-off of the Turtles, with less grit, gore, and a new focus on adventure and humor. These became the most recognizable mainstream version of the Turtles. The Heroes and a Half show with multicolored headbands, living in the sewers, eating pizza, and shouting catchphrases like Cowabunga. This new direction was sparked by a deal made with Playmates Toys in the late 80s, creating one of the best-selling action figures ever, generating billions of dollars. The mainstream exposure led to many opportunities, including an animated TV show in 1987 that ran for 10 seasons, a video game launch for the Nintendo NES in 1989 that sold 4 million copies, and the first live-action movie in 1990 which generated $202 million worldwide. Northampton played more than just a role in the growth of the franchise. It served as a place of growth for the Turtles themselves. During this period, the comic series entered the guest era of talent in issues 11 through 45, with Kevin and Peter taking a step back from the creative direction. While many don't consider these issues part of the TMNT canon, this was a pivotal moment for the Turtles, as they began to develop more depth, something that they had previously lacked due to their parodic nature. Northampton was also embedded in the stories themselves. If you look at this splash page from issue number 11 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when the Turtles first arrive in Northampton, you'll see a familiar sight if you've ever been on the intersection of King and Main Street in downtown Northampton. In this issue, the Turtles and April O'Neil retreat to her family's abandoned farmhouse in Northampton, Massachusetts, after suffering a brutal defeat at the hands of the Foot Clan in New York City. Physically injured and emotionally drained, they seeked refuge in the quiet countryside to recover and regroup. The peaceful rural setting contrasts with the chaos of the city, providing a place for the Turtles to heal and reflect on their recent loss. Leonardo, severely wounded in battle, struggles with the weight of his leadership, while Raphael becomes frustrated with their situation. April's journal entries provide insight into the emotional toll of their defeat, as she reflects on her own loss of home and job, as well as the growing connection to the Turtles. As they regain their strength, the Turtles resume their training, using the solitude of the farmhouse to prepare for the challenges ahead, ultimately finding a renewed sense of purpose and unity. It was featured throughout the comic series, made an appearance in the live-action movie, and even showed up in the newer versions of the animated series in 2003 and 2012. It's pretty wild to think that this huge cultural phenomenon was built right here in this building and remained here up until 2009 when the series sold to Viacom, the parent company of Nickelodeon. And while the Turtles may no longer reside in Northampton, their marker on the city will continue to remain.